Hi everybody, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. First of all, I would like to thank each and every one of you for all of the prayers and warm wishes and little messages that I've gotten from you in regards to my son-in-law, and I'd like to give you a little bit of an update on how he's doing. Obviously, from the look on my face, I would think he is doing really good. His surgery happened. It was extremely successful. They were able to get all of the tumor, and they believe that they were able to remove all of the cancer. He is being seen by a wonderful hospital on the West Coast up in Seattle. All of his treatments have been scheduled. The United States Air Force has been just wonderful to work with. I can't tell you how good that they've been to my daughter and my son-in-law and making certain that his care is being really well taken care of. So he is doing really good. We truly believe that he is on the road to 100% recovery. And I wanted to take a minute to really thank you guys for all of your prayers, because they have meant a lot to me and to my family. So that's the first part. The second part is this quilt hanging behind me. It's quite large. It's 80 by 100, and it's made with two fabrics from Hoffman's. This one here is called Cloud, and it's a dot fabric, and this one is called Eucalyptus. And I just really love them. They're very nice, soft colors. And I think that when this quilt gets all done, because this is only the first step of it, it's gonna be beautiful. I'm really getting excited about this. I'm going to quilt it with wool batting, and I am hoping that this quilt is gonna make its way to Alaska to my kids. I'm thinking that this will be a nice, warm, cuddly quilt for my son-in-law to have while he's going through treatments. It'll keep him nice and warm, I hope. So this is what my latest project has been. And again, it's just made with two fabrics. Really simple to put it together. These stripes are 4.5 inch. They finish at 4 inch. So you're not dealing with little teeny tiny pieces. It really didn't take me long to put this back together, or it's the top of the quilt. Didn't take me long to put it together at all. It went quite fast, so I was really pleased with that. And if you stay tuned, I'll show you how you put these blocks together. This is part one of this quilt. There is a part two coming up, but I'm gonna make you wait until next week for it. So stay tuned and I'll show you how I put this quilt top together. The very first thing we're gonna do is get our strips cut, okay? And I wanna show you a couple of different tools that will make it a little bit easier. This Creative Grids ruler, let me move the other one so that you can actually see it. So what we're gonna be doing is cutting 4.5 inch strips by the width of the fabric. So this is my 8.5 by 24, I think it is, and a half ruler. This one is great. The reason being is because I can line it up all the way across my cutting mat so that I know I'm making a really straight cut. This one's nice. The one that I ended up using, or the ones that will make it the absolute easiest, are one of the two following ones. The first one I'm going to show you is the one that I actually use to cut it, and that's this one. This is my Creative Grids 20.5 inch square ruler, and you can see it's substantial. It takes up the entire camera. So I will insert a small clip of it so that you can see it, but this is the one that I used because it was 4.5 inches wide. I could cut from 18, so I was getting 4 cuts every time I did. And to answer a question from a previous video, there are times that yes, you do have to stop and square up your fabric again. It just happens. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. I've never gotten through cutting of an entire quilt without having to re-square my fabric at one point or another. The last ruler that I want to show you is this one. And this is Creative Grid Stripology ruler. This is another really great ruler, and the reason being is because you're actually going to put your rotary cutter into one of these slits, and I'll show you what it looks like, or at least try to. I'm going to just do an example with my left hand so that you can see it. So what you do is you take and you open your rotary cutter and you stick it in the slot, and you just follow it right up. And because your rotary cutter is right in a slot, you're going to really cut straight. So this ruler is a great one for a number of different things. The reason I did not use this one and I used the 20-incher was because this one wasn't quite wide enough for what it was that I was doing. So that's why I used the 20-inch one. So as I said, the first thing that we're going to do is cut our strips. Now, mine are all cut, and I just want to show you. This fabric is a Hoffman's fabric, and the color number is 100-436, and the color name is Eucalyptus. And the second colorway that I've chosen is Clouds, and that is number 113. And again, this is a Hoffman fabric. So you are going to cut 50 of the eucalyptus strips that are 4.5 by the width of the fabric, and you're going to cut 50 4.5 by the width of the fabric cloud strips. Okay. Once you've done that, you're going to split them apart into sets. So I'm going to put 3 clouds and 2 eucalyptus together, and then I'm going to put 3 eucalyptus and 2 clouds together. And this is my sewing stack. So right here is going to make this is going to make 4 blocks right here. Okay, our total quilt has got 20 blocks. So I'm going to set those aside, and I will now go show you how I went about putting them together. The first strip set that I'm going to put together is my eucalyptus and my cloud. So I've got 2 eucalyptus and 3 clouds. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to try to continuous sew as much as possible. So I'm going to open up my eucalyptus first, and then I'm going to set my cloud right on top of it. And I'm going to do that with my first 2 strips, and I'm going to just start at one end, and I'm going to sew all the way down 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the next one. And I'm just going to sew right straight all the way down again. Then once I get that done, I'll come back and show you what the next step is to put the 5 rows together. Here's my first strip all sewn. Okay, so I'm going to open that up and then turn it around because I like to sew with my wider piece on the bottom. The next thing I'll do is take my 3rd strip of cloud. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to attach it right to this side and start sewing. Now my other one, this one where I put the 2 pieces together, that one's actually still attached to the sewing machine. I haven't taken it off yet. I want to try to continuously sew as much as possible. And when I say continuous, it means not breaking the threads. You can see I've got my 3 together, and then here's my 2. And I'm just going to take my 2, flip it over, and just attach it right here. So the eucalyptus is going, so then I'll attach the eucalyptus to the cloud. And then I will have my strips all sewn together. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but in reverse, with a eucalyptus in these 3 spots and a cloud in these 2 spots. And then I'll be ready to go over to the pressing table and get these pressed up. Then I'll take them to the cutting table and trim them up. So I'll see you over at the pressing table. All right, you can see here I have my big long strip, and I'm going to show you how I pressed it. I just pressed the whole thing to one side. What I did with my first couple of ones, I was putting 2 strips and 2 strips together and pressing those, and then doing the third. Well, I found out because they're so wide, I could do all 5 together at once. So I did all of them together, and then I pressed my seams one way, and then I turned it over, and I used, what did I use this time? I turned it over, and then I used Mary Ellen's Best Press on it, and I pressed it. Then I folded it in half. And I was pretty good about making certain that my seams were lined up, and you can do that mostly by feel. So my next step is I'm going to take it over to the cutting table, and I'm going to trim it up. So I'll meet you over there. You are going to have a total of 10 of these sets of strips. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make certain that these are lined up really well. I'm going to make sure that my edges are together, and then I'm nice and flat, and then I'm laying really straight. And then what I will do is I'm gonna trim off one edge. And the edge that I'm gonna trim off is this fold way over here. It's way here. I'm gonna trim the edge off first. I'm gonna take my longer ruler. This time I'm gonna take my 24.5 by 6.5 inch ruler, and I'm just gonna line it up. And I need to bring it a little bit more this way. I wanna line up this edge over here. These are the 2 raw edges. I wanna try to line those up against the side of my cutting mat as well as possible. I'm gonna line up my edge. See how we're doing here. We're doing pretty good, not too bad. Move this over just a little bit so that I'm a little straighter. Now I'm gonna take my ruler, I'm just gonna line it up, and what I'm doing really is just shaving the edge off over here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want it down into single pieces so that I then can square it up. So I'm gonna get rid of this ruler. Now I'm gonna do it one at a time. I'm going to get rid of one of my pieces. I'll set it in front of me and turn it over. And I know that this edge, my raw edge over here, that one is fairly straight, okay? So I'm going to line that up with the edge of my cutting mat. Now I need it to be 22.5 inches. So I'm going to take my huge cutting mat. And this one I know is exactly 22.5, so I'm going to line it up. And I'm also going to pick a point here and line it up all the way across so that I am as straight as I can be, because these aren't always easy to be perfectly straight. And I'm flush there. I have a little hangover on this end, so that's the first thing I'm going to cut. And I'm talking just a little hangover, which you see how much, see, that's all I had hung over on the edge. And I'm pretty square on the bottom, so now all I have to do is trim that one side so that I am 20.5 inches square. There's my piece. I'm gonna go on to my next one. I'm going to do all 10, so all 20 of mine, and then I'm going to get it laid out, and then I'll be back to show. Your next step is going to be to take your 2 piles, take your 2 different block A and your block B. Start with either or, it doesn't matter. I'm going to start with this block, which starts out with the eucalyptus and then the cloud, and I'm going to put that one vertically. Then I'm going to take my second block, which starts with cloud and then does the eucalyptus, and I'm going to lay this one on top of it, right sides together horizontally, and I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch all the way down this side. I'm going to do that to all 20 of my blocks. So I will have 10 of these when I'm done and I come back again. So I'll be back in a few minutes with 10 sewn sets. So I've sewn 2 pieces together. The one that started with eucalyptus is going vertically, and then the one that starts with cloud is going horizontally. So here's my seam. One of the things that I did do when sewing it that I want to point out to you is when I sewed this, you can see all of my seams are pressed down. So that as I sew this right over, it makes it really, really easy, okay? So my next step is I've got my 2, and then here are my next 2. Show those to you. So now what I need to do is I need to add this eucalyptus to this piece where the cloud is on top. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing that I did before. I'm going to take this just like this, and I will turn it over, and I'm going to pin this together, and then I'm going to sew it, okay? So now I will have 4 across. I'm going to do that to all of the 10, so now I'm going to have 5 rows, and then I will be back once I've reached that stage. Oh boy, let me see. All right, I have backed this up as far as I can. I can move it up. There's Tucker. And there's Rena. You stay there, Tuck Tuck. Lay down. Tucker. Good boy. All right, and here is the quilt. Now, on the surface, it may look really simple to you, but you've got to wait for the next step. Kind of looks like a basket weave from here. At this point, the quilt is 80 by 100, and that's as big as it's going to get, okay? I'm going to sew my 5 rows together just so that you know how I press this. So I'm going to have to nestle my seams right here on all of them, okay? And because of how I pressed it, they should nestle really well. These right here were pressed towards there. So again, this right here was pressed towards there. This right here was pressed towards there. And if I go up the next row, it was the opposite. So my seams were pressed to here, into here, and to here. So I'm going to put all 5 of my rows together. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I do that, my quilt's going to be 80 by 100. So it's going to be a very nice size quilt. Once I get this all put together, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a really good press. Not only am I going to give it a good press, I'm also going to use either spray sizing or Mary Ellen's Best Press. I'm not sure yet which one. Probably Mary Ellen's Best Press. And I'm going to press it really good because once I get this all put together, we've got another step to do. And I cannot wait to show you that step because that is going to be when it turns really, really fun. So at this point, what we've got is 20 blocks, and they are made up with eucalyptus, which is Hoffman fabric number 100-436, and clouds, which is also Hoffman's 113. The clouds is the print right here, and the eucalyptus is the solid. And I really like the effect that it's giving. I think it looks mega cool. So I will be back once I've got this whole thing put together and I've got it pressed. So I will see you then. I have sewn all of the rows on, okay? My next step is I need to press the seams. Now, I have already set the seams, and how you set the seams is you simply take the piece that you're gonna set and you lay it flat and you just run your iron over it, just like this. That's it. Just take the iron, and what it does is it just kind of nicely meshes all of the fabrics together. So I've done that on the entire piece. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press my seams open. And the reason being is because the next step that I'm doing, I need the quilt top to lay as flat as possible. I don't want a lot of bumps in it. So I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to open it up. Okay, right here is my seam. Okay, I'm going to take my strip stick. This is my strip stick. And I'm going to lay it right across that seam. And hopefully you can see it. Okay, my strip stick's right there. And what I'm going to do is I am going to press all 4, because we got 5 rows of these seams open. Then once I've pressed them all open, my next step will be to turn it over and press the front of the quilt. And at that point, I will either probably use my Mary Ellen's Best Press to keep it nice and flat and stuff. So how I use my strip stick is I take my fabric and I lay it over. Then I just finger press it a little bit in the very beginning. I take my iron and I just run it right over the top. And I have my long strip stick. This one I think is 44 or 45 inches long, so it's really nice and long. So it'll work. But I'm going to flip this over. See how nice and flat that seam is? It is just the best. It just keeps it really, really flat. So I'm going to do this on my entire quilt. So all 4 rows. And then, like I said, once I get done doing that, I'm just going to flip it over and I will sew or press the front of it. I hope you enjoyed sticking around while I showed you how I made this quilt top. Now, as I said in the beginning, this is only part 1 of a 2-part quilt. So come next Tuesday, I'm going to show you how I went about finishing this quilt top. And I just can't wait to show you because I'm really excited about it. So thank you so much for sticking around and for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please tell your friends about my channel. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you again on Tuesday. Bye.